What is going on, everybody? ZyoniK here, and in today's video I'm diving into the Great League Remix Cup, which is finally back. One of the best metas we always see in the Great League, banning the top 20 Pokemon used. Now, the top 20 Pokemon that are banned are determined by a previous season. So it is not the Pokemon from this season, and it's likely not the Pokemon from last season. It's like 2 seasons back, if that makes sense, which is why Pokemon like Poliwrath and Gligar are not banned, and they're pretty common in this meta. Now today's team, Guzzlord, Shadow Alolan Marowak, the GOAT, and Frostlass did very well for me. I decided to lean very hard into a team that only has really one big weakness, and that is going to be Carbink. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Carbink's the #1 Pokemon in the meta. Why would you be totally weak to that? Well, I was trying to play a game of odds. I think not a lot of trainers have Carbink yet. It's a lot of XL candy. I don't think a lot of people have it, so I'm just going to guess that people aren't going to be running it. So we're going to play the game of odds. I did face one today, but overall this team did very well for me. The GOAT obviously put in work, so I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, getting into the first battle, we have Guzzlord on the lead versus Mantine. So Mantine, a very strong Pokemon. Zerfelros in yesterday's video ran it in the Open Great League to hit Legend. I've seen some confusion in the comments there where people thought it was Remix Cup. His team was Remix Cup. It wasn't because Whiscash is banned. But Crunch here is going to be landing. No debuff there for myself. I'm totally fine with an Ice Beam hitting me. So be it. But most of the time they are running Aerial Ace and Water Pulse. So I'm just going to look to No Shield and then go for the farm down with Dragon Tail and then determine if I need to keep Guzzlord alive or not based on what they swap in. Now they swapped in a Greedent right here, which is unfortunate because I wasn't able to get to the Crunch in time. So I will be going down, and then I'm going to look to bring in Frostlass. Now Frostlass in this matchup can do pretty well because of Body Slam. I obviously have to watch out for the potential Crunch, but what I noticed here is when I go for this first Avalanche, mind you, it's a Greedent, it's going to take a lot of damage, they decided not to shield, and I thought this was really weird. They must be weak in the back to Frostlass. So I decided to no shield, hoping that it was just Trailblaze Body Slam, but it wasn't. So now I'm going to be forced to shield right here. I don't know what they have in the back, but it's very odd that a Greedent would no shield that because now I get the full farm down, right? And we see Mantine come in. I'm like, something's weak in the back. And sure enough, it was Shadow Gligar. So it was an ABA kind of flyer team. Makes a lot of sense, and thankfully I kept Frostlass alive with some health. And what we're gonna do here is look to go for Shadow Bones, and because the Gligar is in a position where they're low enough to get one shot by Avalanche, I'm gonna go ahead and shield the Dig. This does 2 things for me, one shot by Shadow Bone, I should say. This does 2 things for me. Firstly, I get to go for Shadow Bone here and knock out or get the final shield. Secondly, they can't overload on that much energy. So what I can safely do is come in with Frostlass and go for a fast move or 2 and then go for the Avalanche. So I'm going to go 1, 2, go for Avalanche right here. This is going to be knocking out. I didn't want to try to farm down in case they got to Aerial Ace, right? So we will knock it out. And then now we go for 1 fast move against Mantine, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. It worked out, but trust me, Mantine no health, a Greedent no shield, get farmed down. Like, they're weak to Frostlass. Good game. Alright, moving to the next one. Guzzlord on the lead versus Frostlass. Okay, so tough lead right here. I'm going to go ahead and swap out into my own Frostlass. And now we get to play the mind games. Is it Shadow Ball or is it not? Also notice what my opponent is not doing. They aren't swapping out, which tells me maybe they're weak in the back to Frostlass and they need to utilize their own in order to take me down. If that is the case, it might be something weak to Ice, so maybe it's a Flyer, or maybe it's a Grass, right? Or they could also be weak to the Ghost typing, whether it's defensive or offensively, right? So it could be a Fighter, it could be a Psychic, something like that. And since I got 2 shields right there, I'm going to go ahead and let this charge move go through, and then I'm going to come in and load up on energy with Alolan Marowak. if it's Alolan Marowak's got to be good against whatever's in the back because they decided to stay in with Frostlass. So I'm just going to go ahead and aggressively farm down. I will give up a shield on the potential Shadow Ball, but because I am a Shadow Alolan Marowak right here, they do swap out, and sure enough, there was a Superior. This is their next best, or may not be their next best option, but what I think they're hoping I do is stay in. So what I'm actually going to do is load up on energy to make sure I have plenty, and then I'm going to swap out into Guzzlord right here. This is going to do a few things. Alolan Marowak, obviously, safe in the back with the Fire Blast, just in case there is a Mandibuzz, right? We can roast that turkey. What this also does is Guzzlord can fully farm down with Dragon Tail and have a Crunch ready to go for the Frostlass, which will do super effective damage. So we're going to go ahead and farm down. We're going to look to see what they bring in, and it is going to be... We got to stare in top right here. Hopefully you guys can see. Yeah, you guys can. It is going to be a Gallade, actually. So, they were double weak to Frostlass. It was a Superior and a Gallade. It makes a lot of sense why my opponent made the decision that they did. They decide now to swap into their Frostlass here to catch the charge move, but ultimately, my Shadow Alolan Marowak is going to be taking this game for me, as I will be able to Dragon Tail down. I'm going to go ahead and fast swap now and go for Shadow Bone, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. Again, you guys got to read. People make decisions for a reason. They stay in or no shield or shield for a reason. Good game. Alright, now, another reason. Poliwrath. We're going to swap out right away into Frostlass, and in comes the Pokemon that I did not want to see. It is Carbink. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you guys skipped ahead, well, I'll just recap for a bit. I was trying to play the game of odds. How many Carbinks would I actually see, even though it is top meta for this cup? A lot of people don't have it built. I think a vast majority of people don't have it built. That's why it's so accessible, or that's why it's not banned. People just don't have it. So I'm going to play to that and hope that I never see it. Now, I did see it in this game, and there's nothing I can do. A Carbink is just going to delete this whole team. So if you have a Carbink, maybe try running it, right? But if you don't and you want to try this team, I hope you guys don't run into a lot of them, because you're not going to do anything to it. Like, we're going to no shield here in case they're trying to bait, but it's most likely going to be a Moonblast, which it is. Boom! Down we go. And now we bring in Alolan Marowak, and this just seals the deal, right? The whole team is weak to it, but again, this was in the 27-2800s range, and I was just hoping that, you know, out of maybe 10-15 battles, maybe I see one, maybe two Carbinks, which was the case. I only saw one. So that is totally fine. We see the Poliwrath come in, so we're going to go ahead and look to shield here. It's likely going to be Icy Wind, but I'm so low that it doesn't even matter. And yeah, it is going to be the Icy Wind. We're going to farm down with Fire Spin, and then hope that maybe I can go for double Shadow Bone against the Carbink, but they have the Rock Slide ready to go, so that is going to be a good game, very well played. Unfortunately, not going to be able to survive, and obviously Carbink, triple hard counter to this team. Good game. Alright, moving to the next one. Guzzlord on the lead versus Shadow Magnezone. A very fun and strong Pokemon. Guzzlord does well against it, thankfully. Even Dragon Tail, even though it's resisted there, does a lot of damage. Now, we gotta be careful about how much damage they actually do to us with Wild Charge. So we're going to go ahead and let this go. It is a good amount, but I'm totally fine with this. They decide to swap out, and they swap into Mantine, which is actually pretty decent for us because I can safely keep Alolan Marowak hidden in the back, which is good. I'm going to go ahead and go for a Crunch right here for a lot of neutral damage. I'm not concerned about the Magnezone in the back, right? I got Fire Spin, Shadow Alolan Marowak. So what I'd rather do is safely let Guzzlord go down, come in with Frostlass here, get an aggressive farm down, again hoping, I mean it could be Gligar in the back, right? So we'd have a tough battle there. I'm hoping to be able to get the full farm down. This might be Water Pulse as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and let it go. I don't want to be shielding again. If Mantine's the only counter to Shadow Alolan Marowak, I want to take advantage of that, and I can do that by going for an Avalanche here to get myself the 2-to-1 shield advantage, and then swap into the Goat in order to start Fire Spinning down. Now, I decide to no shield here, thinking that they blind throw the mirror shot, and they did, which is perfect. I get the almost the full farm down, and the final Pokemon is actually Annihilate. So by investing the shields into the Alolan Marowak, it definitely paid off for me. I let the Water Pulse go through. I caught what looked to be a blind throw. Again, it was so quick that they didn't have time to see my swap in, and Mirror Shot does do, it would have knocked out the Frostlass, so that would make a lot of sense instead of throwing Wild Charge, which is why I decided to no shield there. It was a risky play, but ultimately it paid off. Boom, as we take it down, and we will fast move down the Magnezone, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. Alright, moving to the next one. Guzzlord versus Haunter. Haven't seen this Pokemon in a long time. Backline can still do decent against it, but we can definitely wall it. We see the Dugong swap in, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Goat. Now, this is kind of a tough situation to be in if you are running Shadow Alolan Marowak, because you have to play the mind games of Icy Wind or Drill Run. They're the same energy. One does no damage and lowers our attack. The other will get us close to a knockout. So it is a dangerous game that you're going to be playing if you swap into a Dugong. But ultimately, I think what I can do in this situation is not be concerned about switch advantage. Why is that? Frostlass can do so well against a Haunter with no shields, and my opponent decided to no shield there, or double shield there. So I decided no shield, and it was another Icy Wind, and I am going to fully trust in Frostlass to sweep this game. I do not need to shield the Drill Run. Boom, down we go. We now can lock and load here with Frostlass and start loading up on energy. It might be worth shielding the Drill Run, as it will do quite a bit of damage, but I decided not to in case they went for Icy Wind there. It came back to bite me, but I'm still sitting okay because I can go for a Shadow Ball here. Avalanche I don't think will do enough. It might have been able to, looking at that. No, it wouldn't have been enough. But now what you guys can see is Haunter goes down. We got a bit close there, right? I could have shielded the Drill Run and had more health, but Haunter will go down. Boom! See ya! And the final Pokemon is actually going to be a Shadow Hypno, so I'm going to swap into Guzzlord, and that is going to be a good game, as Dragon Tail and Crunch is going to be taking it. Now, I am concerned about a potential bait and then Focus Blast. They don't have enough energy for that, and Ice Punch isn't enough, but the safer play is to ensure to no-shield that first charge move because it was not enough energy for Focus Blast. So we're just going to go for the Crunch here. Boom, that is going to be a good game, very well played. Alright, moving to the next one. Guzzlord versus Pelipper on the lead. Really nice lead for me. Similar to the Mantine, where the Goat loves to see these water flyers disappear from the battlefield. So my opponent is deciding to stay in. This is telling me they are they're most likely core broken, and they probably want to get themselves shield advantage. So I'm going to play to that. I'm going to give up a shield here. I don't want a free Hurricane to land, and then I'm going to go for the farm down, obviously, with Dragon Tail. Now, we have to see what decides to come in, and it's going to be an Escavalier. Now, I'm not swapping out. Notice how I'm still taking a lot of damage from counter, but the reason why I'm not swapping out is I don't want to get switch misalignment. What I want to do is come in and Fire Spin down, because it will do a lot of damage. Look at that. I'm gonna have to shield the Drill Run, obviously respect the super effective damage, but 3 Fire Spins is enough to take down the Escavalier, and my opponent decides to surrender. So that is going to be a good game, very well played. Alright, moving into the next one. Guzzlord versus Shadow Magnezone once again. We're going to play this the same, see what they decide to do. They're deciding to stay in. Alright, we're going to look to go for that Crunch, for that hard-hitting neutral damage, and they're deciding to massively overload on energy. This gives me a window of opportunity here to strike first, and this does quite a bit of damage, and they decide to shield. So now I got to start wondering, why? Why did they give up a shield? Maybe there's a Mantine in the back, and they want to take down the Guzzlord with the Magnezone. They actually swap into Gligar here, so I'm going to go ahead and go for Crunch, and I'm going to let Gligar take down the Guzzlord. I know I could keep it alive, but ultimately, I think Frostlass coming in and going for an aggressive farm down is going to be the play. And having the 2-to-1 shield advantage instead of swapping out. So we're going to go ahead and no shield here, thinking it's going to be, well, it was a dig. So it's still a good amount of damage, but I can easily Powder Snow down. And now, Switch Clock isn't back up yet for my opponent, I don't think. So I'm going to look to try to fast swap into the Alolan Marowak, but the timer's taken a while. And now I get to farm down the Magnezone. This is all because of the Switch Clock. It's 60 seconds long, and by not having mine locked, I was able to fast move down Magnezone before it became a real threat. And Cresselia was the final Pokemon, so good game. Alright, moving into the next battle. Guzzlord, Steelix. Alright, Guzzlord doesn't like Steelix because it does have access to Dragon Tail, so I'm going to swap into Frostlass. And now I need to be careful about the potential crunch. So I'm going to go ahead and go for Avalanche here. It's going to do quite a bit of neutral damage, and the Steelix actually decides to respect it and shield. So now we got to start wondering, did I just bring in my Frostlass to a Gligar backline? So we're going to shield, thinking it might have been Crunch, right? But it was Psychic Fangs, and a Mantine decides to swap in. Totally fine. Aerial Ace is not going to be enough to knock me out, so I'm going to try to go for Shadow Ball here, which I get to in time. A lot of neutral damage, and once again, Mantine is on the field, right? If this is the only water on the team, then maybe Shadow Alolan Marowak can win this game for me. So we got to come in with Guzzlord right now, and we got to go for the aggressive farm down. And if Ice Beam hits us, so be it. But giving a shield to Shadow Alolan Marowak with the potential to 1v2 sweep, oh, we get hit with an Ice Beam, is going to be worth it, right? It's going to be worth it. So we are going to see Steelix come back in, so I'm going to go for that Crunch. And then now I got to swap into Shadow Alolan Marowak and pray that it's not Gligar in the back. And it was. This is why, right? Look at what your opponent is doing and not doing. They shielded the Steelix. They swapped it like it was a tell. The second I saw them stay in and shield, I'm like, they have Gligar in the back. So I'm going to hope, and I also shielded Aerial Ace right there, which is really unfortunate. I could have gotten away with a no shield. But I got to hope that I can get to this next Shadow Bone in time, but I am one turn behind. Actually, maybe two. 2 turns behind right there. One Fire Spin fast move behind. But that is going to be a good game. Shadow Gligar able to take it from me. And yeah, good battle right there. But I had a hunch. I'm like, uh-oh, there was a Gligar in the back. All right, moving to the next battle. We have Mantine here on the lead. Good lead once again. We're playing it exactly the same. You guys are going to see Mantine a lot. Don't fear the Ice Beam. Just soften up the Mantine, because what you don't want to see is a Mantine against your Alolan Marowak, because Fire Spin is resisted and Water Pulse hits like a truck. So best thing to do is stay in with Guzzlord. Now, I shielded this, and the reason is because this was right after the last battle. I got hit with an Ice Beam, and I'm like, are they running Ice Beam now? Is that where I'm at? Because I've been climbing a bit. But I decided to no-shield these now, and we go for the farm down. So we're still sitting okay. We got rid of Mantine, which is the ultimate goal. And now we get to see what is going to come in. We have a good amount of health here on Guzzlord, and it's actually going to be Annihilate. So I swap into Frostlass right here to get ahead on energy. I know Annihilate is going to be throwing the Night Slash, so we're going to let this go. It is super effective damage, no boost, and they actually swap in a Ferrothorn, so, well, that's good. Alolan Marowak's definitely going to be taking this game, as we can safely go for Avalanche right here. I go for Avalanche because I know Ferrothorn has to throw, otherwise I get to another Avalanche. I would have gotten to it on the next 2 Powder Snows. So we let the Power Whip go through. It's a 2-to-1, but here Alolan Marowak with Fire Spin and a shield against the Annihilate is going to be winning just because of the damage that it can do. And thankfully Ferrothorn doesn't have enough energy there, so I don't need to worry about a charge move. And as you guys are going to see, Fire Spin is just adding up. Yes, the Annihilate could bait me with a Night Slash and go for Shadow Ball, but you got to remember I have a Crunch locked and loaded on Guzzlord. So that is ready and waiting. And all I need to do is go for a second Shadow Bone here to get the final shield from my opponent, much like that Shadow Gligar game way at the beginning of this video. It's the same situation. Force your opponent's hand to shield, and now I'm safe. Guzzlord can win this game for me, even if this is Shadow Ball. But it wasn't. It was another Night Slash, which means they're going to go down to Fire Spin. They get the boost right at the end, but it didn't matter. That is going to be a good game, very well played. That was the final battle. Overall, right, team was really strong. I know it's weak to Carbink. I showed you guys the Carbink game. It's a wrap. It's done if you face Carbink. But because it's such a heavy investment and it hasn't been out that long, I don't think a lot of people have it. If you like scale out all of the players, I mean, more legends and experts will probably have it. But if you're down in Ace still and stuff, I don't think a lot of Ace trainers have Carbink, because if they did, they'd be way higher rating because of how strong it is in this meta, and just in Open Great League as well. So that's just my 2 cents. I built this team for not seeing Carbink often. It actually paid off for me. I got a ton of great wins that did come down to game knowledge and team reading, but I always emphasize that to you guys in every single battle and video. I critically read. This is what I'm doing when I battle. I'm just like, why did my opponent no shield and avalanche on Greedent and let me powder snow down? There's got to be something else in the back because Mantine swapped in. And sure enough, it was Gligar, right? Things like that, you got to read what your opponents do and don't do, and that can lead to a few extra wins in your set. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. The GOAT did fantastic today, and like always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.